So, continuing with the text of Shantideva's conduct, the way of the Bodhisattva, we are in the 10th chapter, the chapter of the teachings on dedication. And as you can see, the intention within the field of dedication as a practice are also the practices of the loving kindness and compassion. And each verse, actually, say you have 56 verses, 57 verses, and each verse can be developed as a focus for developing loving kindness and compassion, and the bodhicitta, as he dedicates the merit to this particular group of beings and that particular group, and they're also in order to not only support or validate or, what do we say, to honestly dedicate merit, there has to be a compelling reason why we're dedicating merit, why we're making these aspirations. So then each verse is an opportunity to both contemplate the unsatisfactory nature of this or that experience, that mind, which ultimately is Buddhahood, is temporarily experiencing itself in the various forms of the various experiences of samsara. And so contemplating that, or bringing your previous contemplations of the basic teachings of Shakyamuni as far as the karma, impermanence, the nature of samsara, and your own ability to contemplate samsara, to analyze samsara, how that all came about. And all this comes to bear on each one of these contemplations. And then the aspiration that beings be freed from this or that form of delusion, which is the root cause of suffering, and experience both the opposite of the suffering, the particular suffering, and liberation from that very cause of suffering, the delusion. So we've already passed through the most suffering experiences, going through the various hell realms, various hungry spirit, tormented spirits, the yidak, hungry ghost realms, and animals. which are sort of those three realms, are the kind of epitome of the experience of anger, greed, or greed, and stupidity. Then now in verse 18, where we'll begin in the human experience. In some ways, these dedications, in spite of what I just mentioned, kind of adding all that extra weight to these verses, it's a very beautiful dedication to just read. Maybe not so many explanations are particularly necessary, but nonetheless we are following the commentary, so we can just continue to do such. So now he says here, now this is a humans here, and may the blind receive their sight, and may the deaf begin to hear, and women near their time bring forth like Maya Devi, free from all travail. So when we think of in the human realm, we rely so much on our senses to as a sort of avenue, a gateway to perception of our world. But that because of karma, because of actions, then our sight is not perfect, our hearing is not perfect, and so on. And so here he points to those who have lost their sight or have never seen. And making an aspiration that they see perfectly and be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, free of the suffering of blindness and the causes of blindness, which has something to do with the actions. And may they have perfect sight with the eye of wisdom, and may they comprehend may they see or may they comprehend the two aspects of knowledge, the knowledge of the nature and the knowledge of the nature of phenomena, and the knowledge of how it is that phenomena arises as it does. And may the deaf begin to hear, may they hear the sweet sounds. And then here's the next lines talking about women who are pregnant. May they easily give birth to beautiful, healthy children, like Maya Devi, the Buddha's mother, who left left her house and just wanted to give birth in the forest. And it was when Mayadevi was pregnant with the prince who would become the Buddha, and just the presence of that kind of very exalted being in her body enabled her to have a very great understanding, a new kind of subtle understanding of subtle truths. And when she could heal people, and this is mentioned in many places, how sometimes women who are pregnant with a being who has this kind of extraordinary kind of karma of benefiting beings that expresses itself even in the womb, and the mother can achieve certain levels of insight and even heal and cure people with their touch. And here, of course, Mayadevi gave birth to the Buddha, supposedly, standing up, holding on to the tree, and without any pain or discomfort, the Buddha was born, and she experienced a great bliss. So Shantideva is then dedicating the merit of the virtue of the 3 times for all of that to occur. And may the naked now be clothed, all the hungry eat their fill, and may those parched with thirst receive pure waters and delicious drink. So basically, may they be free of, these are kind of human, like we need protection from the elements, we need food, and we need water. And so there are those who are without protection, without clothes. There are those who are famished. And certainly there are those who are parched with thirst. Water is a big getting clean water is a very, it's getting more and more difficult in modern times, both through outer the degeneration of the elements and overpopulation. But here we're focusing on them as with love and compassion, and our love and compassion is such that we want them to be free of the suffering and the causes of that suffering, and that they have those materials that will bring them to happiness, and that they also then, when we're free of suffering, we're more likely to have some kind of understanding of interdependence and the causes. Like when we're in the midst of an episode of suffering, mental or physical, then it's very difficult. Our ability to think clearly is impeded or dimmed. And so we don't necessarily have the capacity at that point to see cause and effect, to have a kind of a vivid or some kind of some kind of a patience or acceptance with everything being temporary and impermanent, and the pitch of suffering, like those basic truths that are true for everybody are obscured. May the poor and destitute find wealth. So of course then we think that according to the teachings of cause and effect, then generosity leads to prosperity, and stealing, kind of the opposite of generosity is stealing, leads to poverty, leads to poverty. Either poverty in the midst of wealth, that kind of poverty where you just never have enough, never content. And so that even those who have that terrible affliction of discontent with their material, with their wealth, their suffering is perhaps worse than those with nothing. So suffering is whatever our circumstances are in this life, suffering is kind of, even though I'm not going against the truth of that, this samsara and all suffering, the nature of this ordinary existence has the nature of suffering. But still, how we experience that suffering is not like a very wealthy person can experience all the suffering of poverty in the midst of that wealth, and a very person who's very destitute, beggars, and people who are experiencing all the forms of poverty and homelessness can be very content, possible. So it's not a clearly defined role that someone fulfills. So may the poor and destitute find wealth, the haggard and the careworn joy. May those now in despair be whole in mind. Here despair has to do with mental illness or mental suffering, being tormented, kind of unsuccessful in worldly and spiritual pursuits. Just kind of that kind of despair. We're dedicating our merit with the aspiration that they become successful, endowed with sterling constancy. May they succeed. May they be strong and steadfast and have self-confidence and courage. And keep going. And may every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May every sickness that afflicts the living be wholly and forever absent from the world. So this all has to do with if we can apply our understanding of causes and conditions, then we can then focus on both the relieving of the suffering of illness and sickness, even like this, the pandemic and all the despair and fear and all the corpses and that needed to be, we couldn't bury people fast enough back in the years or so ago, and all the fear of that disease and so forth. This all has to do with our collective karma and how each individual experiences themselves within that collective karma. And every sickness that afflicts the living, as we know, there's 404 types of disease from the prayer we've been doing, is a prayer to end the epidemics. It has to do with how the Tibetan medical system operates, or the view of the Tibetan medical system, which has elements of both Ayurvedic from the south, from India, and the Chinese from the east, and also Persia, and that influence of all of the medical, both the theories and particularly the remedies, the variety and the breadth of the remedies that Tibetans had. They have the three, which I think before, was it maybe Greek? I don't know medical history, but I think in Greek they also had like the view of the Ayurveda of the three humors, the three humors of phlegm, wind, and bile, as being the house or the seat of all diseases. And so how those three humors, or those interact and support one another, and the excesses and deficiencies of those three give rise to like 404 diseases, 101 from bile, 101 from wind, 101 from phlegm, and then 101 of different combinations of those. But anyway, may they be free at once from all these sicknesses. And may those who go in dread have no more fear. May captives be unchained and now set free. And may the weak receive their strength. May living beings help each other in kindness. Captives, both physically, those people who are in prisons, and may they be free, and may they give up the causes of imprisonment, and all those who are afflicted by kind of demons, by whose body or speech or mind is kind of under the influence of something beyond their control, are chained in that sense, and may they be freed. May the weak receive their strength. Both those in high positions of power, may they not be, may they be without pride or jealousy or aggression, and be able to express the power of their status with loving kindness and compassion. Even down to small ants who have comparatively not so much power, like one step of a human can, ants can, you can kill hundreds of ants. They're very, really, can be really in the way of those who have more power. So may all beings help each other in kindness. May they have mutual affection, and may their hearts be softened by loving kindness. Seems like what's being expected here is that people stop acting out of instinct. And may travelers upon the road, whether they're seeking a spiritual, on a spiritual quest, or on a, what is it, like I don't know if they, salesmen, salesmen, saleswomen, women, salespeople, people who travel, business class people who travel for business. Some of them are in the front of the plane, some of them are sweating it in the back. It's really interesting in the airport when you see business people, pacing and talking on the phone. It's very stressful. So may travelers upon the road, this kind, find happiness. May they find happiness no matter where they go, without adversity or without obstacles. May they, have clear skies, open highways, pleasant conditions. And may they gain without the need of toil, without obstacles, the goals on which they set their hearts, even if they're just temporary goals, trivial or temporal, material success. May they achieve that, and may they get used to achieving their goals and give rise to this intention to enter into the path of awakening. And then with that same propulsion of that, may they attain that. May they attain the fruition of awakening. May those who put to sea in boat or ship attain the ports that they desire, and may they safely come to shore in sweet reunion with their kith and kin. I think here in time of Shantideva, people who had to travel by boat, that was, I guess, even though everything is dangerous, everything is dangerous. Snakes, scorpions, bandits on the road and so forth. And then also, but the sea was, I would imagine that the sea was kind of the epitome of something dangerous, people, humans, are like land creatures, but through ambition and other conditions, then we develop ways to go on the sea. Now, I mean, the same has to do also with space and flight, which even more kind of unearthly, unsolid. We are creatures on a planet, on a rock, as I always say, we're on this rock, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of empty space. And so that alone accounts for a lot of our just instability and fear. We become blind to it, especially, and the earth is very natural. The solidity, that delusion of feeling the solidity under our feet and under our bodies is very calming, and we get so used to it. So when we have to go out into space on a moon mission or to another planet to do mining or looking for resources on other planets and having to deal with other space people from other planets, who maybe are aggressive or jealous, or maybe, and they have ray guns and things that, these kind of things. I wouldn't be surprised. It's big out there, so it's a lot of possibilities. But so then, may all those come back home and be able to pass their time enjoying themselves with their friends and family and pleasant conversations. How do you think about these things? May those who so verse 25 and maybe 26 also, these have to do with traveling. May those who lose their way and wander in the wild find fellow travelers, and safe from threat of thieves and savage beasts, may they be tireless and their journey light. May children in the ages and all those without protection, wandering in the fearful pathless wastes, who fall asleep unconscious of their peril, have pure celestial beings as their guardians. So may those, and of course, our experience, you're all sitting there in your somewhat probably safe, comfortable places with your computer screens there and kind of everything taken care of to some extent. But that's not the experience of most people in the world. If we're talking just about people, most people are not experiencing life in such a way. So a lot of people are wandering around, unsettled, without water. He's referring here, lose their way and wander in the wild. They're wandering around with no water, no shade. The sun is, the ozone layer is creating more and more heat, more and more desertification, and more fearful places and fearful people. And so may they find fellow travelers who show them safety. May they find cooperating fellow travelers who are able to lead them to safety, give them good directions. And may they have the strength, may they be tireless and their journey light. May they reach their destination safely. And then here, the more vulnerable people, children, the old people, and those who are wandering alone without protection, like here, of course, migrants, refugees, are like in this boat or in this kind, where wandering in the fearful, pathless wastes. Imagine how all the people are evacuating in Europe, both from other European countries and from North Africa, across the Mediterranean in those boats, and across the Ukraine and war, and it's just a dreadful experience. So, and then of course children and the aged, and it's not just people just getting up and going. They also have back problems and feet problems and toothaches. They have toothaches, and women are pregnant, and all these things. So many. And they just look for places to sleep, just like people who are experiencing homelessness now. They have to, there's so many here in this, just even here we can get a small taste of what it's like by seeing that, and putting yourself in the position of people who are homeless, and how they have to, how difficult it is to go to the bathroom, how difficult it is to find drinking water, how difficult it is to go to sleep. Young people and women alone, and how they have to sleep, and the fear there. And so may they have, you pray that they have divine protectors. Because the system won't necessarily come through. So then dedicate merit. Of course, everything is people are experiencing the results of their actions, and so with love and compassion, then dedicate merit that things turn, that they find the causes and have their suffering lifted from them. Celestial beings. Before we were talking about, tormented spirits. Some in the commentary, I think in this section, is a very nice story of two demons. What are called? They're called one category of demons, the flesh-eating demons. These are two demons. And some demons, some tormented spirits, have a connection with Dharma. In fact, a lot of in the commentary, when he talks about the causes of different things, I guess maybe the audience of the commentary, even though it's a relatively contemporary composition, this Khenpo Kumbhal was late, contemporary, 19th century, it's kind of contemporary, but, he was pretty much the audience that he was writing for, of course, was the religious order, monks and nuns and lay people. And so he talks a lot about karma and insofar as Dharma practitioners, not just stealing, but like the stealing from the shrine, or like blindness. There's a lot of, you can read many in the Orthodox texts about karma, then blindness has some cause. And here, the Khenpo Kumbhal, he mentions how it's people who and I ran into this myself, where if people offer butter lamps, then other people come and they extinguish the butter lamp and then pour off the butter to resell it. It's in Nepal they do this. You order to go all around Bodha Stupa, thousands of lamps. And then the people you buy them from, the little kids go around after they're lit, and then they pour the oil out, the ghee or whatever it is. So like these, then this blindness has to do with cutting light, taking light away. And anyway, there's a lot of things how certain, even hell realms, people, they have faith in Dharma, but they got, there are monks who argued and started throwing pots and pans at each other in the kitchen in the monastery, out of anger and things like that, and they were born, and so that's, his context is a lot like that. And then, celestial beings. So these two celestial beings mean here they're more the invisible tormented spirits, who one has some connection with the Dharma, faith in the Dharma, but he's living his life experiencing itself as a demon, and then the other one has no faith in the Dharma, and where did it go? Then the one says, and then there's two monks walking, and so the one says, "Oh, let's kill these monks, destroy these monks. We're flesh-eating demons. So they look juicy. Let's attack them and steal their life and eat their flesh." And the other one, who has some faith in the Dharma, said, "Well, I'll make a deal with you." How did it go? If they talk about Dharma, then we won't kill them. One had faith in the Dharma, so naturally, if they're going to talk about the Dharma, then he says, we won't kill them, we'll let them go. And so everyone says, okay, I'll make a deal with you. And so basically they're just monks gossiping the whole time. You know? So then they're going and going and going. And then they, when they're about to part, go on two different paths, then they both say to each other, okay, you know, take care. And then the other one says, yeah, you take care too. And then so the one demon goes to the faithful demon. He says, okay, let's go. They had no dharma there. They'd just been gossiping the whole time. And the guy said, no, no, no. Didn't you just hear them? He said, take care. And they both said, take care to one another. And carefulness is one of the great teachings of a Buddha. And so then they let them go. So this kind of protection for those two monks, they had the celestial beings as their guardians, even though they were flesh-eating demons. Take care. Okay, then. May all be freed from states of bondage. May they be possessed of wisdom, faith, and love. So here, bondage is referring to those those states that that are without dharma, without the opportunity or the capacity to practice dharma. Basically, what we understand to be in our contemplations of precious human birth, the eight states of that we are free of, the eight freedoms. And may they be possessed of wisdom, faith, and love. In other words, may they attain a precious human birth, a precious human body, and be free of all the conditions that prevent them, that make them incapable of practicing of the Dharma. May they be possessed of wisdom, faith, and love. These are three qualities. May they not just be humans, but may they not be corrupted with false views. May they not be stupid, meaning not knowing what to do and what to avoid. This is what constitutes being stupid, is not knowing what to avoid to prevent suffering, and not knowing what to do to create happiness. There may be many definitions to stupidity, but that's kind of one aspect of it. Not to be so it's not just enough to be human, but to be have some capacity to understand what to do and what not to do. That way you will be free of suffering. So wisdom meaning just in of course in the great wisdom of recognizing, realizing the absolute truth, that kind of wisdom. But just may they be humans, and may they have the capacity of knowing, that kind of wisdom. And then faith, may they be endowed with faith, which of course then we know there's four kinds of faith. There's a vivid faith, or lucid faith, that just sort of comes kind of seeming spontaneously, just some kind of rekindling of some previous connection with enlightenment. Even the word enlightenment may trigger an interest. And that's called vivid faith. It's kind of no effort. It's just boom. You see an image, or you read a book. You have some motto. See some bumper sticker. Something just ignites, or you feel resonance with it. Interest is kindled, like that. And that to not have that dissipate or just be a momentary experience, then you need to pursue, like, well, what is that? You saw this image of a Buddha, and it kind of, wow, it's so peaceful and so relaxed and interesting, and all the features of an image, it kind of makes you interested. Other, like cats and mosquitoes and mice, they don't have that reaction. There's nothing inherently in a picture of a Buddha that everyone is going to have the same experience. Some people don't see it whatsoever, and people and animals that have no connection. But if you have one, then that's called vivid faith. Blind faith, maybe. We don't use that term, but vivid faith. And you have to do something. Be curious. Let your curiosity carry you into some pursuit of what that indicates. Who is that, or what is that? What text? If a text, you read a text, or you see something, maybe like even just a YouTube, like a 3-minute YouTube, and boom, somebody is captured, you could say. They have that experience of vivid faith, but then they have to pursue it. And when you begin to appreciate that there are certain qualities there, then you have this what's called yearning faith, kind of have a yearning to either relate further with those qualities, to acquire those qualities. Then you also learn through continuing to explore with that desire, that yearning, you begin to appreciate how those qualities are qualities that you could actually manifest. They could be one's own qualities through some effort, and which means that you've begun to understand karma and impermanence, that you are not a fixed person. You are ever changing, and under the right conditions and under the right influence, then you could have those qualities that you yearn for, and you develop confidence. And confident faith really comes about through rational analysis. It's called Ch10, means mind made. Your mind made you have this kind of confidence. Came from your own understanding of particularly causes and how everything arises through causes and conditions. Like it's taught how if you get depressed about your lack of faith, then you should really study and contemplate how everything arises only through causes and conditions. And then from that confident faith, that confidence, then that becomes what's called irreversible. Irreversible. So that's what faith means here. It means sort of a strength of confidence. And love. So love, of course, the root of Mahayana is loving kindness and compassion. It's the root of Mahayana. If you practice, or what did he say? Dr. Rinpoche said something like, if you engage in the practice of Mahayana or Vajrayana, but you don't have compassion, then your practice is rotten from the root. The root is rotten. And so having compassion for all life, all that lives, you have compassion for. And so this wisdom, faith, and love here, love means this loving kindness, which, as we mentioned, I think previously, this practicing loving kindness is kind of the most important entry level practice. It just requires a level of affection and a level of understanding the relationships we have with others. And if we think we only have good relations with a few others, but then they have relations with others, and then they have relations with others. So everything is interconnected. It's almost like all sentient beings means everybody, all life. And so to develop a kinship or a relationship, an affection for all living things, then comes compassion, because you want them to be happy, and then you see that they're not. The three forms of suffering, the suffering of change, the suffering of suffering, and the all-pervasive suffering afflict every sentient being. And then this compassion, what's called unbearable compassion, means like the suffering is such, then you can't do anything about it. That's what's unbearable, is you can't do anything about it. So that's what that indicates. So from loving kindness, then comes compassion. And from compassion, then comes this bodhicitta, which is that loving kindness developed, that compassion developed, and then the pledging oneself to attain enlightenment as the best possible way to fulfill your need to free beings from suffering. And how only through the power of Buddhahood, the capacity, the ability, the compassion, the knowledge or wisdom and ability of enlightened mind, that's how you will, one by one, liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Sometimes we say one by one, sometimes all at once. It's just a way of expressing that if we take the Bodhisattva path, basically we don't even think that there's an end to it. On one level, of course, we think the end of the path is like if you travel from one place to another, you know how long it's going to take you. And when you get there, you've arrived. But on the spiritual path, the end of the spiritual path can happen anytime. Because the goal of a spiritual path is transcendence. And transcendence means transcending the path. It can happen, after the first step, after the second step, after the third step, like that. The spiritual, the path to enlightenment ends at enlightenment. That's when our nature is realized. Our ever-present, always enlightened nature is recognized for what it truly is. Then the path ends. So how did I get there? Faith and love. So here, may all beings be freed from the states of bondage, and may they be possessed, may they gain wisdom, faith, and love. Of course, here the implication again is that from love comes compassion, and from compassion comes bodhicitta. And bodhicitta has both relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. So may they be freed from that suffering of being bound to states that make it impossible to enter into the path of awakening. Without that, then their actions, without entering into this path in this way, then their actions without wisdom, faith, and love, it's most likely scenario is that our actions will just lead to our ruin. So freed from that suffering and endowed with love and compassion, we aspire and dedicate our merit towards that. With perfect sustenance and conduct, may they always have remembrance of their former lives. So here, perfect sustenance and conduct. Here, sustenance has to do with, I think in the commentary particularly, has to do with right livelihood. The basic principle of Dharma practitioners, how they support themselves, how they take care of their sustenance. Do it without engaging in the intentionally engaging in the negative action. Of course, in the Eightfold Noble Path, it talks about right speech, right action, right livelihood. Right speech means, of course, this giving up lying, deceitful, abusive, fanciful, or would you say gossip speech, divisive speech, and action in this Eightfold Noble Path. Right action has to do with avoiding intentionally killing, lying, or sexual abuse, sexual misconduct. Right livelihood means not engaging in negative actions or negative speech in order to ensure your livelihood. So taking care of your sustenance and conduct kind of go together in that sense. And also then in the it's also commented here, because again to the monastic community, the whole idea of core drip is called, or core means misusing the offerings of the faithful. And of course, that affects particularly those of us that are involved in receiving and managing what is offered to either individually or to the projects or to things like butter lamps and offerings for tzok and so forth, and also misusing like the plates and dishes and all the things that are part of a spiritual community's daily that need to be supported daily. So there's this relationship between the sangha that are in supporting the Dharma Center and the sangha that is that's supporting the Dharma Center. In other words, the donors or the lay people that are, although it's not lay people, but everybody contributes. But anyway, it's misusing either money or objects. As we always say, everything, like here, everything is given out of faith by the faithful. And so it's a particularly onerous responsibility to be able to accept the offerings because you have to follow through on that. If someone, I've always, if someone makes offerings for so many butter lamps, then those offerings, those butter lamps have to be offered, and so forth. So, or whatever. Somebody offers to paint something, paint the walls, or paint, then has to be done. If not, then there's a certain kind of obscuration that comes in the aftermath of that, or from that downfall. Kongtrul Rinpoche, Shamgon Kongtrul says you should, like you lamas and monks, even one penny you should regard as poisonous. Like offerings are like poisonous. You can basically, they can destroy you, taking offerings if you don't use them to promote or to carry out Dharma activities, even if they're not designated. So there's a responsibility that we have to use offerings for Dharma purposes. So that has also to do with right livelihood in the special case of those that whose work is religious work, spiritual work. Also, like it says in the 7-point mind training, the discipline of conduct, your livelihood, is not to be a hypocrite, not to flatter, not to flatter. Not to what does it say? Not to pull rank, to get support. This is all about getting support. No hypocrisy, no flattery, no kind of pulling rank. And also, you have to keep your pledges, keep your vows, keep your pledges. Here doesn't mean like pledging, like often it means you're pledging like your bodhisattva pledge, your bodhisattva vow. Yeah. So then, may they always have remembrance of their former lives. We see this also in various liturgies and things. And in the King of Aspiration prayer, it talks about, may I always remember my previous lives. It would be wonderful to have the support to our understanding of karma and our bodhicitta vow. It would be wonderful to have that supported by our remembrance of our past lives, particularly regarding our understanding of karma. Well, if we could remember our past lives, then we would be convinced of the connection between our actions and the reactions. And our bodhicitta vow, because bodhicitta vow goes deep in our mind stream, then that vow would be remembered. It can be remembered from the past in the present. So there's a great benefit to our understanding if we can remember our past lives, just from the point of view of karma alone, just to be convinced of karma. We'll be able to see how the flow of our lives was steered only by our own actions, not by some other forces. And so may others remember their past lives, and may they may everyone have unrestricted wealth, just like the treasure of space, enjoy it according to their wish, without a trace of harm or enmity. Treasure of space, maybe it's a familiar, it's a term, has to do with the bodhisattva, certain bodhisattva levels, where they can actually manifest because of their merit, their previous merit, they can enter into one samadhi, one meditation, absorption, and manifest all around them whatever they desire to manifest. And it's a how do we say? It's a capacity. It's a power that enables bodhisattvas to make offerings to the Buddhas of unimaginable wealth. And that wealth comes through their merit, and then it increases by manifesting it and then offering it. Then it increases their merit, which then increases their capacity to benefit sentient beings. Of course, here, enjoying it according to their wish means that they have, that their possessions, their unrestricted wealth, as it says here, that it's all, that all that they possess is in harmony with the Dharma, to promote their Dharma, the Dharma, and in harmony with the Dharma, not against the spirit of a virtuous spiritual path, that kind of unrestricted wealth. And that they enjoying it according to their wish without a trace of harm or enmity. In other words, not having to go through all the effort of protecting your wealth. Just enjoy it freely, not having to protect it or to exhaust yourself with it, with all of the insurance and in other words, wealth that doesn't, in the end, become a super big inconvenience. Like that. Kind of like the treasure of space. It fills space. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to protect, but yet it's there, and then it's offered. So whatever individuals, whatever beings need, may it manifest, may they use it and not have to worry about it. Use it freely, all in accord with virtue. May beings destitute of splendor be magnificent and bright. That is, beings here meaning the higher. Now we're going higher. Some in the heavenly realms, then there's the God realms. Some gods are brighter than other gods. And of course with humans, some humans are more charismatic, more kind of brilliant, more, what do you say, wangtang, more, have more, more effective, kind of like can manifest just through the force of their presence, have that kind of powerful presence. So those who don't have that, again, through karma, each one of these has to do with understanding karma, understanding impermanence, and then infusing that with love and compassion. Okay, that's sort of, I'll repeat it again and again, but there are those who suffer by being overshadowed by others. They have, so their kind of dignity or their charisma is low, And so may they be brilliant and magnificent. And then those who suffer from deformity, poverty, like when you are destitute, when you have the struggle of poverty. And of course, the more people that rely on you for their sustenance, the more effort you have to put out. And so it can lead to overwork, overstress, physical crippling. I'm sure, people who, they worked hard and then they have, chronic shoulder things, they're got back problems, they're all stooped over, their legs, something happened, it got caught in a thing, a machine or something, or there's something that created what we would call a deformity in this. And of course then there's kind of congenital deformities and things, but also this overwork kind of thing. May they not be disadvantaged. May they not be happy. And those who suffer from deformity acquire great beauty and perfection. So through the results of, say, poverty or bad nutrition or long-term hunger, all the neurological and physical aftermath of deprivation like that, may they attain great beauty and perfection. May they not be disadvantaged. May they be happy and healthy and fully functional. We make aspirations and dedicate our merit with love and compassion that comes out for them in that way. And then this next one, may all the, okay, I don't even know if I want to read this. It says, may all the women of the world attain the strength of masculinity. And his footnote here has to do, he pulls it from the commentary that we're using. So basically, the way I read this is that, and the Tibetan Ch10 pa derak chepa ni chik. He says it is what it says. But what I think is being brought out here is what, of course, in those days, there was no such thing, and it wasn't even conceivable, but what we these days call equal rights, especially this is about gender. We can talk about, deformity and hunger and all these things that we've been talking about of all the human condition, But here, particularly, is the difference between women in the past times, and men. Of course, the times were different, somewhat different. But certainly, I don't want to get too deep in this from but it has to do with equal rights for men and women. I mean, women, like here, they translated the strength of masculinity. Really, it's just has to do with man or man, and the word is not exactly become a man. It says jur, but it says chebo ni Ni. Ni means sort of the kind of the essence, like sem ni means like the essence of mind, the ness. So man-ness. And so I think in our historical time period, this actually is Shantideva's I think, oh, Shantideva, his aspiration is being accomplished, finally, after 2,000 years. Women get paid, or, you know, the trend is towards women getting paid the same as men, you know. Like the men had that level, and then women come up to that. The strength, you could say strength, it doesn't say strength in the original, but that is the spirit, whatever we think. And through various developments, scientific developments, medical developments, and so forth, gosh, you know, it's almost like these days anybody can have a baby regardless of their gender pretty soon or something, you know. They're working on it, in other words, you know, this kind of compulsive need to have everybody equal. It was unheard of until, I mean, that's not normal human history. That's very modern. It's modernism. So, I mean, we have to understand the context a lot. And also, one of the principles of the Bodhisattva, one of the principles that a Bodhisattva lives by is to basically blend in such a way that you can affect people kind of from the inside. Because the Bodhisattva's mission is to bring people to the path of awakening, not equal pay. You know, if it happens, it happens. On their way to enlightenment, if it happens, it'll happen. You know, but somebody may be, you know, poor their entire, you know, like Milarepa, poor is a whole spiritual path, you know. So we can't mix too much the conventional lifestyle, worldly lifestyle, and a spiritual path. You know, we tend to want it all to kind of fix each other. And I'm not a women's studies scholar, or that's, so I don't know. But this is how I think this is a very beautiful aspiration, particularly here. It doesn't put me off. And I suggest that you read into it according to the times that we live in, and how there's definitely I mean, here, Shantideva might have been killed for making an aspiration like that. You know, who knows, you know? I mean, it's preposterous, because there's such difference. So to have all of the advantages that men have, since men are supposedly, you know, the assumption here that men are in the preferred position, getting paid for something, even the sports, you know, the soccer players, and so now they're even in my hometown, the women, I think it's the soccer team, they play now in the same field that the men played in. There's no reason in the world why they shouldn't have, but they didn't get to do that. They weren't allowed to do that, you know. And then they just won a case where the women are getting the same salary as men. And like these, yeah, I mean, it's really coming. It's definitely, there's movement there, and I hope, that my aspiration is that the women, get paid the same, if they get a hole-in-one on a golf course, that they get the same amount of money that a guy would get, But right now there's a big disparity everywhere, but that's the intention here. And it's not just money, power, it's power. So women will get that, and then they'll have to deal with their power, and not misuse it. Okay, I'm going to leave it. My mind is going in that direction. So then may the lowly come to excellence. Okay, here lowly, we know, we can see on the news and in documentaries and things, acres of garbage in the world, people scavenging. This is called lowly, people who are just on the bottom of the human food chain, women who go and break up, look for rats' nests to take grain in India. They take grain from mice and rats. They look in the fields for the burrows, and then they take the grain as in their little baskets. Or in Delhi, men in the cities, at night they take a burlap bag and a stick, and they go out in the back alleys and kill rats. And they get paid, pennies for each rat they kill. That kind of, may the lowly come to excellence. May those who, and then there's, people who are just in general despised for their status. It happens everywhere. May they, through my merit, with my heart goes out to them, my compassion goes out for their suffering, may they be free of that, may they enjoy wealth, and may they attain a good social position to help them, to encourage them, to give them confidence so that they can enter into a path of awakening. Like that. And may all those people in that low position, may they be able to leave that behind. Even if it's like, what was it, Slumdog Millionaire, something like that, even like that. The proud and haughty lose their arrogance, and on the other side, and there's the proud and the haughty. May they rather have proper discipline, moral discipline. May they have a good heart. May they develop a good heart. May they be patient. May their minds be at peace. The haughty and proud, and may they lose their arrogance. Then again, Shantideva says, oh wow. Okay, may thus by all the merit I have gained, meaning throughout the 3 times, of course, may every being, leaving none aside, abandon all their evil ways, embracing goodness now and evermore. May they act in perfect, virtuous ways. Okay, I think we'll have to leave it there. I wanted to finish this chapter. Okay, well, 18 to 31, that's only 13 verses. Okay, well, I said earlier it was straightforward, so I guess I can bend anything, I think, you know. So, without any regret, I will end here. And verse 30, 31, 32, we'll start next time. Okay. Yeah. So, closing prayers, talk about dedicating and aspiring, then again, we always should remember the 3 spheres: recognize and kind of embrace or recognize or recollect the virtue, then recognize the object as all beings and samsara, and that you are transferring any results of your virtuous practice of this teaching, the development of your prajna, your learning, contemplating, practicing, and all the joining it, rolling it up into, or kind of blending it or rolling it up into the body of virtue of all good, noble beings, and dedicating it. All the virtue of this practice and all that is gathered throughout the 3 times I dedicate to all beings without exception, so that they may attain Buddhahood. Following and emulating the omniscient and courageous Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra, I completely dedicate all virtue. Since dedicating merit is praised as supreme by victorious ones of the 3 times, I completely dedicate these roots of virtue for the sake of practicing excellent conduct. May the teachings of Lord Buddha, the only source of benefit and happiness, long remain in this world. May the lives of those who uphold these teachings be as stable as a victory banner. Supreme Bodhicitta is so very precious. Where it has not yet arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but evermore grow and flourish. Okay, so hi. So take care and be well, and we'll continue on next time.